Welcome to the Play to Win cEDH set review brought to you by Moxfield. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Cameron. This week we're going to be taking a look at all of the cards that we think are cEDH playable in Adventures of the Hidden Realms, the new upcoming Magic set.
In the Hidden Realms.
That's why I said
No,
in.
you said of.
I'm pretty sure I made sure and I said in. The tape will tell. The tape will tell, and I will expect a bunch of comments to say I'm wrong.
If you want to follow along with us, there is a link to our Moxfield deck list for all of the cards that we're going to talk about down below. Moxfield is the place where Cameron and I use to make all of our decks. It's the place that we use to track all of their spoilers. We highly recommend it. It's very sleek. The owners are very receptive to feedback. By far the best deck building site that I've come into contact with. If you want to follow along with us, just click the link and set the group to color and then sort the names. So we're going to go white first and go alphabetically through the colors down that way.
So that means we're going to get started with...
Or should we still do the begin, even though it's not a game?
Yeah, we should still do a begin.
Okay, begin!
Guardian of Faith. So this is 1 and 2 white for a 3/2 Spirit Knight creature. This has Flash and Vigilance. When Guardian of Faith enters the battlefield, any number of other creatures you control phase out. This card is bonkers.
Absolutely so good.
This card is bonkers.
Really good against Cyclonic Rift and Toxic Deluge, things that normally you have a hard time protecting all of your things from because those are just difficult things to protect from. This lets them phase all of that stuff out. It's another Teferi's Protection. 3 mana. Teferi's Protection doesn't see a ton of play in cEDH, so this one might not.
This is on a stick. There's a couple of decks that might care about that.
That could be a relevant thing. If it's in a Tymna Stacks deck, you would definitely not play Teferi's Protection, but this card you might play.
It has Flash, which is insane. What I love when you said Cyclonic Rift, when you flash this in, if you don't phase itself out, it will just return to your hand with the Cyclonic Rift, and then you get it again.
Oh wow, any number of
Any
that's pretty
number
good.
target
I didn't even realize that
creatures.
you could phase itself out.
Oh, it's other target creatures.
Other targets. So you wouldn't be able to phase it out either way.
No, but it's ideal in the Cyclonic Rift situation.
That's fantastic because you get to do it again. So this card is specifically excellent against the Cyclonic Rift.
Exactly. Now we can stop and you just shut up about banning that card because we have white has a way to deal with it.
Let's move on to another white card. This one is Ingenious Smith. I'm not sure how good. Again, I'm going to say this a lot, but I'm not sure how good any of these cards are. This one is a 2 mana, 1 and a white for a Human Artificer. It's a 1/1, and it says whenever Ingenious Smith enters the battlefield, you may look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And it also says whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Ingenious Smith. This ability only triggers once each turn.
It's so sad that they had to put only once each turn.
It's
this card
very
could have
close
been
to
even
good.
so much better.
Yeah, it is each turn, not each your turn, so you can do it on an opponent's turn if you can get artifacts into play. Sure, that's not really the thing that we're looking for. The reason why this is good is this is a 2 mana impulse, kind of.
If you need artifacts, if you're a Heliod...
Yeah. If you're in Tishar, if you're in Heliod, I don't know if Heliod wants this, but might want this. It's white card draw and decent card draw. It's selection. It goes 4 deep, and as long as you have a target, which if you're in a deck that wants to play this, you statistically will probably have a target. In the decks that this is good in, I think this will be a solid role player.
This could definitely be something here. The next one that we're going to talk about is Nadar, Selfless Paladin. This is a 2 and a white for a 3/3 Dragon Knight legendary creature with Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, venture into the dungeon. And other creatures you control get +1/+1 as long as you have completed the dungeon. So I think at this point, if you're watching this video, you've seen the dungeons. But what's really cool about this guy is that as a commander in your command zone, you have an infinite way to kind of win the game from your command zone.
If you can infinitely blink in mono white.
That's what I'm trying to say.
This is an outlet for infinite blinks, right?
Exactly. Now, how do you blink in mono white? Well, I have something here that someone else on Reddit already found out. You can infinitely blink with Parallax Wave and Opalescence. This is kind of like the best way to do it because you can use Parallax Wave to target itself because it's a creature because of Opalescence.
Okay.
Because, of course, Opalescence is the enchantment that says that all of your enchantments are creatures with the converted mana cost of their power and toughness.
Sure, okay.
So when you exile, once you run out of the counters and you've exiled things to Parallax Wave will go into the graveyard and something else will happen. It's a really big brain scenario, but you have to stack the Parallax Wave a very specific way too.
Sure.
So that way Parallax Wave will come back into play because it's exiled itself to itself instead of going to the graveyard from losing the vanishing counters. That's how it works.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So
maybe this is a new mono white threat.
this could be. There's another way. If you have Panharmonicon and like Felidar Guardian or Restoration Angel, this also
that
goes
seems-
infinite with it too.
Those are cards that I can understand.
Right, so that's I should have just let off with
Just
this
go
one,
with
right?
that. I don't know what that other shit you're talking
So,
about. Let's just talk about these cards.
so with the Panharmonicon, in play, either Felidar Guardian or Restoration Angel
Two
will
flickers.
be... Yeah, 2 flickers.
Well, Resto can flicker an angel,
I'm
though.
sorry, you need to have both of them in play.
Oh, sure.
So it is a 3-card combo
Oh,
with your
sure.
commander. So it is quite a bit. But it's an option. It's an
there.
option that you have in mono white, and you could
have
probably
a
build
mono
a deck
white
around
dragon commander, and
Yes.
it could be cEDH viable. Someone's gonna want to do that.
it. It could be, yeah.
Let's move on. Also, that one was suggested by patron Connor. I asked our patrons to give us suggestions about what cards that we should talk about. But I also asked Cameron that, and Cameron also suggested that we put this one on. So we're going to talk about all the other patron suggestions at the end of the video. For now, let's continue on with Oswald. This can't be this card's real name. Oswald Fiddlebender?
I love this.
That's ridiculous. I cannot believe
He
that.
fiddles and he bends metals,
We should
I
have
guess.
prefaced this whole set review with neither Cam nor I are Dungeons and Dragons fans. I don't
No.
get any of these references.
Neither
This
do
is
I.
all going over my head. So this is probably like a fun character in D&D. Oswald Fiddlebender. Everyone loves him. I have no idea who
He's
this
got a
is.
fun ability, at least.
He is, I think, an extremely good card. All right, so let's talk about what it is. It's a 1 and a white, 2 mana total for a 2/2 legendary creature, Gnome Artificer. It has magical tinkering, which is a bullshit thing that they do, where they just make up a word and it is a single one-time use mechanic
Yeah.
for every card, which has my brain going, no, that's italics. I'm gonna have to remember that for later, but I will never have to remember.
All
'cause
it's going to
nothing.
make me do is just say, what's that? All
Yep.
the time.
So anyway, what it does is for 1 white and tapping it, you can sacrifice an artifact. Those are all part of the activation. So white, tap, sacrifice an artifact. Search your library for an artifact with a card. Search your library for an artifact card with a mana value. They changed these words now, so I don't know how to read them. With a mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed artifact's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is
Artifact Birthing Pod.
Artifact Birthing Pod. This is an Artifact Birthing Pod.
It's on a stick, which is awesome. It's only 1 mana to activate 2 if you want it in your command zone for
It's
any
1
reason.
mana less than Birthing Pod?
That is also true, and it doesn't cost you life. You can't activate it until it comes around,
You have to
which
wait.
is a bummer. But at 2 mana, like, this card is nuts.
This is another card in the decks that it's good in. It's an all-star. I don't know if this is a commander in its own right. It very well might be. I'm not sure what these lines could be. I have never thought about them. Maybe you have. This could be something in the command zone, but I'm definitely thinking about it in decks like Tashar, which is a deck
Yeah.
that is secretly one of like these hidden powerful decks in cEDH that no one ever wins with because it's impossible to play, but is really, 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 really good. This is another toy for that deck to play with.
I mean, there's ways in colorless that you can just make infinite colorless mana. Just Basalt, Monolith, and Rings. Like, if you are for some reason in the need for that, you can just easily go get that for yourself too.
Yeah, this helps you find either of those targets. Yeah, exactly. This is going to do a lot in cEDH. I'm just not sure everything that it'll do
Where?
yet. But
I feel like
Tashar's a
even
good
like
start.
Zerda. Like in Zerda, it can go help you find your Grim Monolith.
If you're playing a deck that has a decent amount of artifacts, so maybe like 20 or more, normally for me, 16 is my Mox Opal limit if I'm playing
Yeah.
Dockside Extortionist and Hullbreacher.
Agreed.
16 artifacts is enough for me.
I like that.
But for a deck like this where you always kind of want to have one out so that Oswald is always live right away, I think you maybe want closer to 20. If you're in a deck like that though, and one of your combo pieces is an artifact, or you're also playing like relevant stacks pieces.
Yeah,
like
that
if you're in a
too.
Brago stacks deck and you can be finding Grafdigger's Cages, and I don't know if Grafdigger's Cage is the best example because Cole could. oh my God, this is perfect for
Right?
Cole. Cole
This is,
always
like,
wants to
exactly
have-
what you want.
Yeah, this is exactly what Cole wants. This is a perfect card for Cole.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we've gushed about that enough. Let's talk about the first class cycle that we have here. So this is Paladin class. So for 1 white mana, you get an enchantment that says spells your opponents cast during your turn cost 1 more to cast. At level 2, for 3 more mana, creatures you control get +1/+1, and for another 5 mana, you can put this to level 3. And whenever you attack until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +1/+1 for each other attacking creature and gains double strike.
Yeah, so this card, I think, doesn't do a lot, but for an initial investment of 1 mana, being able to be a pseudo-silence on the turn that you need it to be, I think this card has potentially large upside. So if you're in a deck where sometimes you want a Thalia effect, but you're just going off right now, it says spells your opponents cast during your turn cost 1 more. So if your opponents tap out and you know they have mana drain or something, if your opponents are not ready for you to win the game, and you can, this kind of counts as a second silence. And if that all goes wrong and it doesn't help you for that, or it just, even if it's not helping you win the game, it's just helping you deploy your sources a little more protected. If you're playing a stack deck, eventually you might have to just beat down the table. It's gonna happen. Sometimes you don't win with the combo. Sometimes you're just trying to lock the table out and attack. True. This card maybe helps you get there. It's a lot of mana investment to get that other stuff, but I think for an initial investment of 1 mana, it could be worth a slot in certain decks.
And I like that it's a silence that sticks around. Sticks around, right? So like you can still get value out of your silence. That's kind of what sucks about silence is that it doesn't just say your opponents can't cast spells for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
this kind of gets you one step closer to that.
Every turn, your opponents are either going to have to leave up extra mana just to interact with you, which they're probably not going to, or they may just not be able to interact with you, which is great.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Portable Hold.
I love this card.
Who named this card? It's so provocative.
It's so flavorful. I love this.
I feel like it's so dirty. Okay, whatever.
Apparently, this is something in D&D, apparently.
Yeah,
I heard on a podcast.
I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Portable Hold is a 1 white for 1 singular total mana value artifact. When a Portable Hold enters the battle, I'm gonna laugh every time.
I know, right?
When Portable Hold enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until Portable Hold leaves the battlefield.
The concept of a portable hole is just so funny to me.
It really is kind of clever.
It's like Bugs Bunny is playing Magic now all of a sudden.
Yeah, so this is kind of like Abrupt Decay. It's limited, it's counterable, so it's not like Abrupt Decay in that way, and it is 1 mana less than what Abrupt Decay can hit, which is obviously different that way. But it gets a wide variety of things, anything at 2 value, and it's only 1 mana for removal. I think that's a pretty good rate. I don't know what deck wants this, to be honest.
No.
I don't think a Turbo
It works really well with your Ingenious Smith.
Sure does. It sure does. Yeah, it sure does do that.
Yeah.
Normally, this type of effect is on an enchantment. This time, it's on an artifact. A 1 mana artifact could be relevant. We haven't seen a lot more artifact synergies.
That's true.
But this card, I think, is solid removal that I would not be shocked to see at a cEDH table.
Yeah. The next one is Priest of the Ancient Lore. This is a 2 and a 1 for a 2/1 dwarf cleric, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, so tell me why you think shitty Elvish Visionary belongs on this
So if
list.
you're playing a Nadar mono-white deck, if you're playing a Nadar mono-white deck and you're already trying to infinitely blink something,
sure,
but your opponent has a Drannith Magistrate out, you can still Priest of the Ancient Lore and infinitely blink that so that way you can draw your deck. Now, you know what also could help you win in that situation would be a Swords to Plowshare. Well, you can just get rid of the draw your way to the Swords to Plowshare. You have this instead of the Swords to Plowshare, right? No, definitely not. No, I just got really stoked about this card in particular because this is the direction, and the fact that we talked about 7 white cards here, like, just shows that you know, as much as I moan and bitch and complain that white is not powerful enough, like, they are doing stuff. Like, this is exactly where you want to see white. That literally says draw a card, and there's no downside. Your opponent doesn't get a card. It's just you that gets a card. You. It's finally a worse Wall of Omens. Correct. A white card that already exists. Let's move past it. Let's move to blue cards. I'm going to start with Grazilax, Illithid Scholar. Illithid is not that word, right? Is that how I say that? Probably That's not. How I would have said it. All right, okay. It's a legendary creature horror, mono blue, 3/2. It costs 1 blue, 2 blue pips. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this is a mono blue Tymna? Yeah. That also, if your stuff gets blocked, you get to just like bounce it back to your hand and not have it die. So if you're playing some of those flying men that have scry, like our next card, Silver Raven, which we'll talk about in a second, you can get a little bit of value and you have to replay these little tiny threats. Yeah, I don't know. Not much more to say to it than that. No. If you want to play Tymna, but you like mono blue, this card might be for you. Kind of rhymes. You're welcome, 2 people. Silver Raven, speaking of, is our next card. It's a blue for an artifact creature bird. It's a 1/1 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, you scry 1. Does Edric want this? Edric totally would want this.
I feel like this is a card that Edric might be interested in. That's the only reason that it's here. Edric is a cEDH deck, and this card would be good in it.
And you will see it played in Edric. Great.
Let's move on to Sudden Insight, another questionable one. This is 4 and 2 blue, so 6 mana, wildly overcosted. It's an instant and says draw a card for each different mana value among non-land cards in your graveyard. So I'm seeing this card as like in the right deck, it could draw somewhere between like 5 and 10 cards. You think it's going to be 4?
What? I don't know where you're going to get 10 from.
Different mana values. I don't know. You have fucking giant Leviathans and whatever.
I think you have a lot of other problems than Sudden Insight, I guess, if we get to that point.
Treasure Cruise, there's some Delve stuff.
Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise are both like the same. I see this drawing 4 cards. So like a 6-mana draw 4 seems great in Standard, in Limited, yeah. But like
it's an instant.
It is. You're right. You're right.
More casual,
but I feel like
probably.
the decks that would want this are going to play Reoccurring Insight over this every time.
Recurring Insight is a sorcery, and I hate that it's a sorcery.
Yes, but you get 2 of them. You get 2 of them.
Recurring Insight is probably going to draw like 12 to 14 on average.
Yeah.
And you're right. This card's probably going to draw.
And you're casting it at a time where like the 6 mana is like nothing.
Yeah, when you have Seedborn Muse.
By that point. Yeah, exactly. Or like you're in Urza and like you're already able to make a ton of mana.
This card's trash. Don't get it. Let's move on to black.
Great. This one I don't know how to pronounce.
Azorak? Is it
Azorak? That actually sounds right. Azorak the Archlich.
The D&D players are like, you fool! It's Azorak, the most powerful
well, it looks pretty good. It's 1 in a black for a 5/5 legendary creature zombie wizard. When it enters the battlefield, if you haven't completed Tomb of Annihilation, one of the dungeons, return Azorax to its owner's hand and venture into the dungeon. When it attacks, for each opponent, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token unless that player sacrifices a creature.
Right, so first, what I'm realizing right now is we really should have talked about what the dungeons do, because without knowing what they do,
I guess that's
probably
true.
Don't understand how Nadar is winning the game or how this card can win the game. So let's go about this in completely the wrong order and talk about what the dungeons do. The dungeons are a little bit tricky. When it says you may enter the dungeon, it means a dungeon because there's 3 of them.
Correct.
And you get to choose. That's confusing to me, but neither here nor there. So let's just talk about what they do.
Going with it.
Every time that you enter, every time you do that task, venture into the dungeon, you can either enter a dungeon if you are not already in one, or you may move up to the next level of a dungeon. So let's go over what the 3 of them do. First up, Lost Mind of Phandelver. Scry 1. Next, you can create a 1/1 red goblin or a treasure token. Do we have to go over all of these? I really feel like I'm just gonna put them on screen.
No, this is what we want to say. Yeah. One of the dungeons has a drain clause, so that when you infinitely venture into dungeons, you can infinitely get yourselves to points where you can infinitely drain.
This one that I'm talking about actually is the one that has a drain clause, a treasure clause, and a draw clause.
Yeah, so all 3 of those things.
Infinite mana, infinite draw, infinite kill your opponents.
You have to watch out based on your cards in your library still a lot of the time for the ones that go through there.
It does say draw a card, not you may draw a card.
Exactly.
So you must do it.
And I think that one's at the end of the dungeon,
it is at
right?
The end of it,
yeah, so you can only go through each dungeon a certain amount of time. But what's nice is that the drain, so long as you have more than like 40 cards in your deck, the drain is going to get you there.
Yeah, right. The reason why this particular card, Azorak, the Acre Lich, whatever. Archlich, that makes much more sense. I don't know how to read. Yeah, the reason why this card is good is because when it enters play and you haven't done the 1 dungeon, it just goes right back to your hand. So let's say, for instance, I don't know, you have Allurin in play, which is an enchantment that says you may play 3 mana creatures, everyone can, for free. You can just do this, and they also have flash. It's a crazy card, but with this card in play for free, no mana, your Allurin says you can put it into play, and then that thing happens and you get to go through the dungeon, and then you put it back into your hand. Allurin says you get to do that again. So this is a 4 mana 2-card combo in Golgari, which is the second one that we've gotten to fit that requirements recently. So I'm very happy for Nath. I don't know if this goes in Nath, but I'm thinking about it for
that is very interesting. Yeah,
it's good, right?
Yeah, no, that is really cool. I don't think this is good as a commander on its own.
No, because you need the Allurin for it to be good.
Yeah, but it's
other stuff. I honestly don't even. Did you read what it does? I don't really even know what it does.
No,
it's
once I saw that it lets you venture, then I knew what it was going to do. And then
who was supposed to read
we were
this
done.
One? Was you supposed to read this, or was I? Supposed to
read it. I did read it. So you're up next. Yeah, I did say what it did.
Okay, you did.
Yeah,
because there's something about a 2/2 zombie or something. But it effectively, the reason why this is good is because it lets you go through the dungeon infinitely.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Asmodeus the Archfiend, a devil god. Wow, is that a cool creature
Holy
type.
cow. Yep, I love
6
it.
total mana, 4 and 2 black for a legendary creature, Devil God. It's a 6/6, and it has Binding Contract, which is, of course, it's
Another
one
bullshit word.
singular mechanic that is only to the Asmodeus. If you were to draw a card, exile a top card of your library face down instead. And then for 3 black, it says draw 7 cards. So you exile 7 cards. So it has a Necropotence on it. Fun.
Ayo.
And then for 1 black, you may return all cards exiled with Asmodeus the Archfiend to their owner's hand, and you lose that much life. So it is like a Necropotence on a stick.
It is 3 mana, and 3 black mana is a decent amount of mana. And what
Yep.
sucks is that if they kill this, you don't get any of the cards. So you lost out on a bunch of draws, and instead you just have a bunch of cards that are sitting in exile that you wish you could have had.
It's also, I think, almost strictly, I know this isn't a real thing, but it's worse than Villas, I think. It draws less cards for the same amount of mana.
Again, someone else who already did the work for me, and I saw on Reddit there was this
the
big
math
thread.
works out that
yeah,
it's
that
just
it,
worse
like
than
there,
Villas.
like again, person that is nameless. That whatever. Thank you again for doing all the work, but went through like a bunch of situations between like burst card draw and like being able to control how many cards you get with Villas a little bit better versus Asmodeus here instead.
And for this one, you have to spend 4 total mana, the 3 black and the 1 extra to draw 7 cards.
To draw 7. In theory, 8, because if you played this on turn 6 and then go around the table, you'll get mana back too.
I see. So I'm viewing this card as a reanimation target that you are prepared with the mana immediately.
Okay,
so
that's
that you're using it right away.
fair.
Which is
I don't know
normally how
why
you
my
would-
brain went there for some
But
reason.
so for Villas, for that much mana, Villas would nug himself 2 life each one of those times, and be able to draw 8 cards, as well as distribute 4/-1 counters amongst creatures.
True.
So for the same amount of mana, you're drawing more cards. You get to kill some stuff. It's bigger. The mana value is higher on Villas, so for
and it
Adnaz,
is flying, like it. That also helps
Villas
too.
has flying.
This is just this just sits and gets chump blocked all day.
But this is a second Villas.
This is
If
a second
you really
Villas.
like
You're not
Villas
wrong,
And you
yeah.
want another copy of it, this card will draw you a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
Just a little bit trickier. And it's also a Devil God. I love this thing in casual. I'm going to be so excited to play this in some sort
Devil
of demonic
God
deck.
is a sick.
So sick.
Type,
I wish it was
yeah.
Raktos, because like Devil God, I want to be able to play like the Red Devils in this deck, whatever, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
talk
fine.
about Deadly Dispute.
All right, so Deadly Dispute is a 1 and a black for an instant, and as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. And you get to draw 2 and create a treasure.
So this is Village Rites. But it's in a slightly different value because it's 2 mana instead of 1, but it makes a treasure. So
It's
the same
basically
mana.
1 mana.
It's the same thing.
Because you get that that back.
And Village Rites, I think, is a solid card in farm decks. It's a solid rate. I like this style kind of just like, let's take a magic card and make it cost 1 more mana, and you get a treasure for it. Boom, design. There you go.
Exactly.
They're doing that a lot, so we're probably going to see a lot of cards that do that, which is great for EDH, I think, and Commanders in general, because we're a singleton format.
So
any
getting
type
multiples of your effect is
good.
awesome
If you
to
like
have.
Village Rites, you get to play this too. So you just
Yeah.
have to play another copy of it. I like that direction. It's fun for Commander players for me.
Yeah, agreed. I really like that too.
Next one is Horde Robber. This is another small one, another kind of treasure maker. I really think this like treasure theme, I would not be surprised to see someone tinkering around with like treasure tribal in cEDH.
Yeah.
I don't know if that 5 mana enchantment that once you have a bunch of treasures and you wait until your upkeep, you win the game. I don't know if that's good. Maybe you that with Final Fortune. I don't know. Maybe we have enough treasures yet. But whatever. Let's talk about Horde Robber. This is a quick one. It's a 2 mana, 1 and a black for a... What's a Tiefling?
I think that is also a D&D
Like
creature.
a halfling? Is it as a hobbit?
I think it's their version of hobbits.
It's
it
a
could
rogue.
be. That makes sense.
It's a rogue and
Yep.
some other thing.
It's a rogue and another
and it's
thing.
it's a 1/3 and says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. So I like this in Tymna decks maybe. If you're in not green and you want to be attacking with your 2-drops and 1-drops anyway, you get in, draw a card with Tymna, make a treasure. Cards like this will always be considerable in cEDH because of Tymna. Ramp outside of green is cool to see.
Exactly. And it's cheap, which is also great too.
Yep.
Now we're gonna move on. The next one is Inferno of the Star Mounts. This is 4 and 2 red for a 6/6 legendary dragon. It can't be countered. It has flying. It has haste. And for a red mana, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And if its power becomes 20 this way, it deals 20 damage to any target. Any target?
That means someone's face.
Ah,
So
holy
what I'm
cow.
thinking for this guy is Dockside Extortionist and Cloudstone Curio and a small creature.
Yeah.
And you can, with those things, create infinite blinks for infinite treasures. Once you have infinite treasures, that's all in mono red, so this guy's your commander. You get to play this guy, you get to pump him until his power is 20, you get to shoot a target, and then you get to blink him because you're doing blink stuff
shenanigans
anyway, and reset
Yeah.
that little thing, and you get to 20 everyone.
That's hilarious.
Is that good?
That's just a funny way to win the game.
Technically, by cEDH standards, your commander is an outlet to a combo. But
Exactly.
the combo is kind of like 3 cards, and you're in mono red, which means that you have no ways to find it.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Godo's definitely better, but this thing's bigger than a lot of stuff.
Also true. So if
Bigger
you
than
just
Crom.
Yep.
It can get even bigger.
it can't be countered.
It can't be countered.
Can't be countered.
That's
is pretty
worth
good.
something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Ah.
This is a card to keep an eye out for. If you want to just like pick up all the cEDH cards that could be something, this is the list to do it, which Moxfield is great because you can just do that. You can
Right.
go buy TCG player at the bottom. You can just
And
click
just
the button, and all that shit just
pulls
goes right
it all
in
into your card.
You can just
It's
buy
so
all
nice.
these cards. At the time of recording it, is $176 for all of these. I think this morning when I purchased it, it was $168, so it's gone up $8 since then. I've made a profit. You're up next.
No, I just read that.
You're not. I'm not paying attention at all. Zoran is the next card. This card sucks. It's a 3 mana, 2 and a red, creature elemental 3/2. It says if you would create 1 or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens plus an additional treasure.
I see where you're going with this.
If treasure tribal is a thing, this card is worth thinking about.
Yeah, now it only makes 1 more mana when
One
you have
more,
a
not
dock.
double. It
Yeah,
doesn't
that's the
double
thing. It
Oh,
doesn't
if this
double.
doubled it, oh man, would this card be good?
This card would be really good if it doubled it. So
Because if
only
you play
making
this for 3, and then if your dockside makes 4 or more treasures, which it almost always will, this is paid for if he doubles it, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but what's nice though is that like when you look at like Deadly Dispute and like Horde Robber, like both of those things only make 1 treasure. So like having like you do effectively double in certain scenarios. You know where it does double? You know where it does double is
Smothering Tithe.
Smothering Tithe. That is good. I was thinking of Malcolm too.
Sure.
It also doubles Malcolm, so like
Pirates.
if you're playing like
Another
Malcolm
toy for
Breaches,
Pirates.
right? Yeah, so if you're like Malcolm Breaches specifically because you have the red, like that's just kind of like another toy to really increase your mana advantage.
And I
that
like
way.
mana costs like this that are 2 colorless and a red, because if you mulligan for like a mana crypt or something, you can cast this on turn 1.
Turn 1,
That's
right?
it's much better than it being
Yeah.
1 and 2 red. It's like a world of difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, Zoran is another one to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't suck as bad as I think you thought it did.
Yeah.
In that
I
moment.
definitely said that one, so it's for sure your turn on the next one.
Oh yeah. So the next one is one of the naming conventions that I despise. You find some prisoners.
You walk into a bar. I feel like
Bartender says,
I feel
"Why
like
the
it's a
long
joke.
face?" Right? Yeah. Like
I have no D&D experience,
Right.
so this is stupid to me. But for D&D players, this is definitely
is
fucking
great,
cool,
yeah.
which I'm extremely happy about.
Yeah, so you find some prisoners for 1 in a red. It's an instant. You get to choose one. You can either break their chains, which is destroy an artifact, or you can interrogate them, which is to exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. Choose any one of them. Until end of turn, you may play that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it.
Yeah, so this is destroy target artifact or take someone's top deck tutor.
This is a hilarious Abrade variant.
Yeah,
Depending on your meta.
I'm never going to say a braid is bad again. You should always play a braid over any other option. I don't think you should swap this out for a braid. But I do like it. It's a little bit of card advantage in red at instant speed, which is nice. It has a failsafe of being able to blow up an artifact. I like it.
It's cEDH, so your opponents aren't going to be playing bad cards, you know? So in theory, you're going to be able to find something that's going to be good, and you have 3 players of decks to be able to choose from.
Yeah, even if they're not doing top deck stuff and you just want to make good use of your mana, exile one of their cards or something if you can't destroy an artifact. Yeah, this card I think is considerable in low color red decks for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about the next one. Circle of the Dreams Druid is next, or what it should be really called, Magus of the Cradle, because this card is exactly that. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. I guess because D&D. Why put this card in the D&D set when it's a Magus of the Cradle?
Yeah.
Whatever. Circle of Dreams Druid is a green for a creature elf druid that says tap to add a green for each creature you control. It's a 2/1. This card is nowhere near as good as Guy's Cradle.
The wind up.
This
I
card,
could see this being played in Elf Ball decks still, because that's the thing.
Yeah. This card is not nearly as good as Guy's Cradle, but it is definitely an awesome card. It is going to be so very good in the Elf Ball decks that play it.
Marwyn is the first thing that I think of.
Marwyn, the mono green elf commander that is almost good. This card is great in that deck, I think. There's a lot of other, if you're in Seedborn Muse elf decks, this card is also really good. I think this card is solid. It's going to see a ton of play in casual.
Yes.
Less play in CEDH for sure, because Guy's Cradle exists.
I think, and what's funny is that I think that the casual players are going to find that it really sucks in their deck because they don't have the mana fixing to be able to get 3 green pretty quickly. Yeah. So, like, you're going to have, like, these turn 8s, which are still going to be good, but, like, you're not going to get, like, maximum value out of these in your casual decks. This is very mana intensive. So, like, the mono green, it's almost shoved in to specifically just be a mono green card.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it's a thing that's there. So the next card is Instrument of the Bards. It's a green for a legendary artifact, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a harmony counter on Instrument of the Bards. For 3 a green and tap it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to the number of harmony counters on Instrument of the Bards. Reveal it and put it into your hand. If that card is legendary, create a treasure token, then shuffle.
Right, yeah, so this card is Yisan's instrument, is right? Or maybe Yisan's style of instrument, maybe not Yisan specifically his instrument, but this is the thing that Yisan does, and it does kind of what Yisan does.
Yisan does it a lot better.
Yisan does it a lot better.
Yisan puts it into play, which is huge. So however Yisan plucks those strings, it's a significantly better way.
There's one deck that I'm thinking about this card in, and I'm not sure if it's good in that deck, but that is Sisay, 5-color Sisay that's looking for legendary permanents of different colors that are not white, that are early. Maybe. I think this card, it searches for stuff. It helps you go along if you're making a lot of mana. Maybe this is a consideration in a deck like that. Maybe not. I'm not super familiar with that deck. That's just what I was thinking about for this deck. Low mana investment in the beginning, and then when you got some extra mana later, you can use it to find some things that you need.
Exactly. And by the time you go to use it, it's already going to have a bunch of harmony counters on it.
Right, yeah.
So it's already going to get you, like a 3 or a 4 drop by that time.
Right away, So I think it'll end up being something. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see this in a low color green deck for sure.
Oh, I'm excited about the next one. Tell me about the next one.
Old Gnawbone. This is a 5 and 2 green for a legendary creature dragon. It has flying and it's a 7/7, and it says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens.
This is like Timna on a 7/7 fucking dragon.
Well, not really Timna. It makes treasure tokens.
It's like a Malcolm, I guess. It's like a Malcolm. Sorry.
What I'm thinking of this card, and this is terrible, is not good in this way, but in Najeela, this is a second Derevi. This lets you go infinite with Najeela. Obviously, you would never choose it over Derevi, but if you want a second Derevi, that's big as shit, this is the one.
Exactly. I don't know how the hell you're going to put it into play.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really, I'm not sure if this actually sees play in cEDH. I think it's a powerful effect because create that many treasure tokens. That's the amount of treasures damage that if dealt.
Yeah.
So when this connects, you make 7 treasures.
7 mana right there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's move on. It's so hot. The air conditioning is off. Can we go to multicolored?
Oh, yes. All right. Bard class, ladies and gents. A red and a green for another one of these class enchantments. Level 1, legendary creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. Level 2 for an extra red and a green. Legendary spells you cast cost a green and a green and a red less to cast. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you play. And for 3, a red and a green for level 3, whenever you cast a legendary spell, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn.
So this is another card that I was considering for Sisay. I'm not sure if it wants it, but this is it's helpful for legendary things. It puts +1/+1 counters on things, which is good because Sisay cares about how big she is.
Exactly. That level 3 has potential to be busted. You have a lot of mana you need to put into that in order to get that on.
Yeah.
But that ability is just so powerful. if you're able to consistently cast legendary spells.
Yeah.
So by the time you're getting that off, you're going to be able to get a lot of card advantage off of this.
Yeah,
too.
you have to have a couple cheap legendary cards that you can cast afterwards, which might be tricky. But
Magical Christmas Land, this card's great.
Yep. Let's talk about the next one, which is Fighter Class. This is a Boros one for red and a white. It enters the battlefield. You may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. This is a 2-mana tutor effect, which is really good in decks that specifically need to find equipment. So Cole, I'm sure wants this.
Yes.
It doesn't even matter what the rest of it does.
That's already great. Playable.
Good. Open the Armory is a card that does something similar.
Yes.
And decks that want to play it, play it. The next level, when you level it up, for 3 mana, a colorless and 2 red, a red and a white, rather, equip abilities you activate cost 2 less to activate. So that's not limited to how much. So if the equip ability effect is 2, it is free now.
Yeah.
In the right deck, in a Cole deck, in a deck that wants to abuse that can be helpful, I think.
Perfect.
It's ramp. You have to pay for the ramp. So you're at 5 mana investment to get 2 mana off. So you have to be able to make that work for you. But with the tutor stapled onto it, that's pretty good. And the next ability, level 3, is for 5 mana for 3 in a red and a white. It says whenever a creature you control attacks, up to 1 target creature blocks it this combat if able.
So it's a removal spell.
It's effectively the Abyss. Every turn you get to kill something.
Abyss, that is what that is.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So and probably you're not getting there very often. Maybe this is think of this like a planeswalker. Don't evaluate it based on the ultimate.
I feel like if you're in Cole, like you've already won after you cast it on level 1.
Yeah, you already got it.
That's where you win the game.
Cole's looking for the artifact. The equipment, this gets it. So in the right deck, this is a player. This is a contender for sure.
All right, well, our next card is Thrasios, Triton Hero.
Thrasios Light.
Yeah, this is Thrasios Light. This is a green and a blue for a 0/4 legendary creature, Halfling Druid. So I no longer think...
This is Halfling, not Tiling.
Yes, so I no longer think that the other card is the Hobbits of D&D.
What is a Tiling?
It's the same thing, but maybe their feet are less hairy.
Then maybe they're smaller even. That thing is only this big.
So there's like a Russian doll situation within the D&D universe.
There's hobbits.
With human-like creatures.
Hobbits are 4 feet. Halfling are 3 feet. Tilings
are like 2 feet.
Just 2 feet. Just
and then humans, we do range.
Yeah.
Humans.
Sure. There's giants that are 7 feet.
Christ.
Anyway, let's talk about what this card does.
So this is Gretchen. Gretchen's an 0/4, and for 2, a blue and a green, you may draw a card and put a land from your hand into play.
Yep. So this is worse than Thrasios in every way.
Strictly worse.
But
if you want those lands in play.
Yeah, if you want to play this card, you can in cEDH. It is an infinite mana outlet that works really well with Seabrim use. It is good for many of the same reasons that Thrasios is good. It's just a little bit worse. So it's kind of hard to judge. I would say, why would you ever play this? Because you can just play Thrasios and play a 4-color deck that does the same thing. But you may say...
Even Thrasios as without a partner, I feel like is still better than this because it's a colorless situation there, too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, colorless mana is much different than a blue and a green.
Like, unless the lands you're putting into play, like, really matter and, like, there's extra combos that you can do.
Thrasios puts the lands into play from the top.
That's also true.
So, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's move right along to Callian Reclusive Painter. This is a small, little nothing card, but I think it might be okay in the right deck. A black and a red. It is a legendary creature, a human elf bard, a Raktos elf.
Yes, Raktos elf.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
It's a 1/2, and it says, whenever this card enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. So it's kind of like 1 mana off that. Other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each mana of a treasure spent to cast them. This is another one that for some reason I'm lumping in with Sisay. I know specifically Sisay, 5-color Sisay wants to have Raktos legendary permanents. I played the deck once or twice, and I remember feeling that that's what it needed to be able to search for the things you wanted. You needed more Raktos permanents that were playable. This is that. It gives you a treasure, so it's kind of like Arcane Signet. It's a 2-mana thing that gives you 1. And then it also lets you... What are you doing that face for?
It's a human and an elf. Why is it a human and an elf?
Okay, your face made me like, did something happen? Is your computer blowing up?
No.
Okay, no, yeah, it's a human elf.
It's a human and an elf.
Yeah.
I was just like going along with it at first because I was just excited to see Bard as a creature type, but
yeah, Bard's not a name? I thought,
no.
Oh, whatever. Anyway.
This
this makes,
I didn't know.
Makes a little bit mana. It makes a +1/+1 counter, so Sisay comes in bigger, and it's a Raktos thing. I think if you're in Sisay, this card is considerable, right? Maybe? I don't know. We'll see.
And it would work in modern humans or modern elves.
Is it modern elves green black?
Well, now it's Jund.
For this card. 'Cause whatever. Anyway, let's move on to Minx.
Minx. Oh,
Minx,
yes,
beloved
Minx.
Ranger.
Yes.
This is you, right? Go.
Yes, this is. Yes. So this is a red, a white, and a green for a legendary creature human ranger. It is a 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste. And for X, until end of turn, target creature you control has base power and toughness X and becomes a giant in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery.
This card does kind of a lot, unseemingly. With infinite mana, you can give all of your things, make them infinitely large, and attack for the win. That's kind of a simple thing of what to do with this card in the command zone. But one other thing that I think is maybe something you may not realize right away is that X ability. If you do that for 0, you can make something have 0 power and toughness, which means it'll die. Which means this is a Naya sack outlet in the command zone.
That is really good.
Definitely shout out to Eat More Tide Pods in our Discord. He was the one that showed me his thing of this Hulk deck that he was doing. So if you haven't come to the conclusion right now, Protein Hulk is a green card that you would love to have it die. So there are a couple of different lines that you can use with Minx, using Protein Hulk, using Kiki Jiki, some piles and stuff like that. And Minx also works as an infinite mana outlet. So if you're Naya colors, you're playing Dockside and Emil, make infinite mana. You can make your Dockside and your Emil and your Minx and your 1/1 hamster. Base power, a billion, and attack everyone.
This is a great option for a Naya commander. If you don't want to play stacks, right? Like you can actually do something cool in Naya colors that isn't egg related.
Right? Yeah, exactly. This is the new card. I think this is going to be a great cEDH edition. I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Those are all really cool things you can do.
Let's talk about Monk class. This is an Azoreous class, a blue and a white. This one, when it comes in, its first ability says the second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. Great. Level 2 for a blue and a white. It says whenever this class becomes level 2, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So this is non-land removal to anything. Bounce it on the ad nause's turn.
Yeah.
Get rid of any stacks piece if you don't want to use it anymore. Or bounce your own Dockside Extortionist for 2 mana. That's a rate that people are already interested in doing. And hopefully you've gotten some benefit out of their second spell from the beginning, so you get to pay for it. That's pretty good. Bouncing Dockside, you're back on permanents. Let's talk about level 3. For 1, a white and a blue, it says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of your library. For as long as it remains exiled, you may cast this card from exile as long as you've cast another spell this turn.
That's insane.
It kind of turns into a Phyrexian arena after that.
Usually effects like this will make it stay exiled if you don't end up using it, but being able to always have access to it as long as you have another spell to cast, that's insane.
Yeah, I think
that's insane.
This card is going to do a lot. I think it's considerable in a lot of decks that are playing blue-white. I would even consider this card in something like a blue farm type deck. I would consider this
maybe even like Lavinia.
Something in Lavinia. I would consider this in any stacks deck. Any deck, I think I would probably consider this card. If you're playing Dockside, it's worth considering. If you want to play your second spell a lot.
Maybe it's good in Jessica Ishai for that reason too.
Yeah,
I
think it definitely could be. I think this card is just a solid, great new card.
I think so too, yeah. The next one I'm super stoked about. This is prospertomebound. For 2 a red and a black, you get a 1/4 legendary creature, Tiefling Warlock. It has Death Touch and Mystic Arcanum. If you don't know what that is, at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. It also has Pact Boon. If you don't know what that is, you may play... well, whenever you play a card from exile, you get to create a treasure. This is crazy. This is actually mana advantage and card advantage from your command zone in a color combination that does not have a commander that does either of those.
Yeah, this card I think is great. Also worth noting that this card is not in the set. It's in the commander products.
True.
I don't know if we've gotten all of those previews yet, and I'm not sure if any of the other ones are good. So far, the commanders, none of them seem cEDH playable. This is the only one that has.
This one really stood out in that regard.
This really good with Jeska's Will.
Yes.
Any of the red exile effects, this is fantastic. It lets you really storm off. I think it's going to be great in an Underworld Breach deck, a deck that's playing ad nauseum, that wants to go really fast, but also has the ability to be a solid blocker, so you can protect your life total a little bit, which is relevant.
Yeah.
1/4 Death Touch is a really good blocker, and it's just slow, grindy card advantage. If your Jeska's Will doesn't have to win you the game, it can just gain you some extra treasure that you can use later on. I think this card is definitely worth
I think this card has a lot of tools. I think we're definitely going to see some sort of deck with this, and I think it's probably better than all of our other options.
Next one is Sorcerer class. This is a blue-red, the Is-It class. It says when Sorcerer class enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. This next level is for a blue and a red. Creatures you control have add a blue or a red. Spend this mana only to cast instants or sorceries or to gain a class level. Not specifically on this class. You can gain on another class, but gain a class level. And then its level 3 is for 5 mana, 3 a blue and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if that spell deals damage to an opponent equal to, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, that spell deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of instants and sorceries you've cast this turn.
So if you just get a ton of mana, you just kill everybody.
So Storm kind of.
Yeah, this is basically
gives everything Grape Shot Storm. This is another one on a similar power level to Monk class. Sorcerer class, I think, is really powerful. I think these two are definitely better than Bard class or Fighter class.
Agreed. Probably even better than the other classes like Paladin class that we talked about too.
Yeah, they're in blue, which automatically makes them better, and then they do good things, which makes them better.
I know, right? Like a double loot is pretty good to get you started off. It is card disadvantage. I know. But
in Underworld Breach decks, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You get to fuel that a little bit more. The next one is Tiamat. Holy shit. This is 2 and tuwuberg for a legendary creature dragon god. It is a 7/7 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon creatures not named Tiamat that each have different names. Reveal them and put them into your hand. So I have some of the lines pulled up here.
Food chain.
Food chain. That is what this is good. Yeah, so you cast Tiamat and you search for Beladros Witherbloom, Morite of the Frost, Bladewing the Risen, Terror of the Peaks, and Scion of the Draco.
This line is really long. I already know what you're going to say, and I already know what it is.
It's crazy.
What your end-up goal is going to be doing, the main benefits to this is you get to play Dramoka, Dragonlord Dramoka, which is a great dragon you can find and really protects your shit. But what happens is you are playing Bladewing the Risen, which is going to reanimate a Terror of the Peaks. You get to play these things for free because you're going to play Dream Halls, by the way,
also
in this loop here. I saw the post that you're talking about. So hold on. I know the person is Inspired Mangoes is the person who thought of these things. So you have the idea is you have Dream Halls becomes a 5 mana for Dream Halls 1 card combo with this card. So you play Dream Halls, you have to pitch something to cast Tiamat for free. Tiamat triggers and you go get a bunch of stuff. The main things that you're looking to get are Morite the Frost and Bladewing the Risen.
Yeah.
You're gonna discard the Terror of the Peaks also to cast the Bladewing the Risen, and then and that one's gonna reanimate the Terror of the Peaks, and then you're gonna play the Morite of the Frost by discarding some other card like a Mask Vandal, which can count as a dragon. You play the Morite of the Frost. The Morite of the Frost is going to copy the Bladewing Risen, but the Legend rule is going to apply as well.
Yeah.
So when the Legend rule applies, you'll get to sacrifice the Morite of the Frost, but the trigger will still be on the stack. So you get to, with the Bladewing trigger, reanimate the Morite of the Frost again, and then the Legend rule is going to apply, and there's also going to be a trigger, and it'll stack, and then each time Terror of the Peaks is out, shooting your opponents. That's so many fucking things.
So many things and so many cards that are required.
You can do a food chain win with this as well, but there's something here. So next up, last one on our list before we get to some Patreon picks I'm going to put all of this stuff in one, is the land cycle, the cave of the den of the hall of the hive of the lair of the whatever.
The new man lands.
The new creature lands. The reason why these are good is if you control 2 or more other lands, they enter the battlefield tap. But if you control less than that,
they come into play untapped.
So,
which is great because there's no other creature land that does something like this.
Mono color, mono white, mono red. I don't know. They're probably not that good, but they're creature decks. They're worth considering. I think they do something on a land. The Lair of the Hydra becomes a super huge thing if you can dump a whole bunch of mana into it.
The white one has flying, which is cool.
You can connect. You can, I don't know, Timna, whatever. Yeah. That's it. Those are all the cards that we thought were great from this set for cEDH. Let's check in with patrons and see what everyone else had to say. So we asked some of our patrons to chip in and help us figure out what cards that we should talk about, just in case we didn't miss any. We're going to go over those right now. We already talked about Connor's suggestion, which was Nadar, which we ended up talking about because Cameron wanted to. Benjamin also said that we should talk about Mordenkainen. Be a pretty sweet card to talk about. So let's talk about this card, Mordenkainen. Mordenkainen.
Mordenkainen. That
I'm not
sounds
sure.
pretty good.
This is another one that I think as D&D people lose their minds over this card. He's a
Yeah.
very popular character. I'm not sure. For 4 and 2 blue, 6 total mana, this is a legendary planeswalker. Comes in with 5 loyalty. As a +2 that says draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. As a -2 that says create a blue dog illusion creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. Pretty good. Okay.
Big thing.
And then its -10 ability is exchange your hand and library, then shuffle. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size.
It's just a funny ability.
Yeah, that is a weird way. It doesn't
Yeah.
draw, gets around Hull Breacher, so you just exchange.
Yeah, that's kind of nice. Its plus ability does draw.
It's possibility
Yeah,
does draw, so you have to draw to get that.
That would just, with the Hull Breacher in play, just says put a card onto the bottom of your library from your hand.
I'm thinking of this in like doubling season decks in high power.
Yeah.
This is probably a really great planeswalker for that doubling season type planeswalker deck. This is an all-star.
This is a great addition to that. Yeah, just being able to.
I don't see it making a ton of splash in cEDH. Just there are other options. 6 mana is a lot.
6
but
mana is a lot.
It's
Yeah.
a unique ability. I love the ultimate. I love exchanging your hand. That effect, if you get that ultimate off, that's
great.
You win the game. That is definitely backbreaking.
Yeah, exactly.
But that might be a little tricky to do.
Next one is Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's 1 and 2 blue for sorcery. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with total mana value 20 or more.
Right, yes. This was suggested by Scott. I've seen a lot of chatter about this card.
So have I.
About ad nauseum decks. Since ad nauseum decks have low mana costs,
so you're able to just cast this and then just get through a bunch of their not their whole library, but like a good chunk of their library. Yeah. And in theory, you're trying to exile just win conditions. Yeah, which is typically what Mill wants to do. I think, looking back at some other formats, Mill isn't always able to do that. And, this is a lot. But, just randomly going through the top of someone's library until they hit 20 CMC is pretty good, too. It's less than an ad naus.
If you have ways to copy this spell, that's when I really like it. If you're looking to, copy this a couple times, then we're talking. If you can copy this, twice, that might be a win condition right there. If you're playing Ral Zarek, if you're playing... This is not an instance, so unfortunately the Rug Dinosaur doesn't benefit from this one.
No.
Which I cannot remember the name of the Rug
But
Dinosaur
I feel like Dual Caster Mage with this is still pretty good, too.
I don't see this card offhand being good on its own. That initial ability is, I don't think, good enough.
Yeah.
It just is not going to do enough. You're going to maybe take one player out of the game, and then another player is just going to kill you, or you're going to not take that player out of the game, and then they're going to win through what you did, which is nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can copy this card, I'm interested. If you can get if you can copy this 2 or 3 times somehow, I think that could be something. Scott also suggested that we talk about Treasure Vault, actually, and we had someone Will back that up. So we're gonna talk about Treasure Vault. Treasure Vault's an artifact land. An artifact land counts for your Mox Opal. That's pretty good. It taps right away. It comes in untapped and taps for a colorless. Great. And for XX, and you can tap and sacrifice it. You create X treasure tokens.
Kind of cool. The first thing that stands out is that with infinite colorless mana, you can turn it into infinite colored mana.
Yeah, that is helpful in some decks, especially if you're in crop rotation decks. If you're in Kenrith and you specifically need all the colors of mana, not colorless mana,
which happens,
but you're playing Scepter or something, this could be something in there.
This could be something, yeah.
And anything, obviously, where you need artifacts, anything, the token doublers, the treasure doublers, this is a mana sink that you can do a lot with. And if you have ways to recur your lands, like ramming up Excavator or something like that,
it gets even more value that way, too. Love that it's untapped. It's untapped,
which is good. Untapped
which is really
nice.
Yeah, that's what makes it considerable. Otherwise, just trying to go for value on a couple treasure tokens, I feel like you're losing out if this is a ritual.
Yeah, maybe not. But maybe, a Seaborn Muse deck, too, if you can, tap out too much stuff, untap, and use that mana for some treasures, and then keep some of it with you, so you can, transfer it over from someone's turn to your turn, buy it back later. Yeah. Could be something good.
All right, so the last one is Xanathar Guild Kingpin. This one was recommended to us by Dylan?
The Bagger.
The Bagger. Thank you, The Bagger. So Xanathar is a 5/6 legendary creature. It's a beholder. And at the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of their library. There's a comma in between those. Here's another comma. You may play the top card of their library, comma, and you may spend mana as if as though if it were any mana of any color to cost that card. What?
You got through it a little bit.
There's so many words.
This is the last card. Thank God. This is the last and final one.
Yes.
At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells, so you silence them. You may look at the top card of that player's library anytime. You may play the top card of their library, and you may spend mana as or any color to cast the spells. So it's kind of like Send Triplets in one less color, and Send Triplets can cast cards from their hand.
Yes, but you get their library, so it's like a future sight kind of effect that you have on their library. It's a blue-black commander, which means that you can just go fast as Oracle Consultation.
It's cEDH deck.
Already, yep, it's a cEDH playable deck according to the Play to Win standards. So, you know, and it is a cool way to get card advantage.
6 mana is a lot.
6 mana is a ton.
6 mana is a lot for a commander that doesn't win on the spot or soon after.
Yeah.
But in high power, in casual, All-Star.
This seems great.
This card's going to be fun.
Oh, this seems like so much
Especially
fun.
if you love D&D, this is like the card, right?
Look at how grotesque this thing is.
So thank you, everyone, for your extra suggestions. Those were great. I don't think any of them were cEDH playable.
Then again, like, none of the cards we talked about today are cEDH players.
Thank you so much for watching, and also thank you to Moxfield for sponsoring this show. If you'd like to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon, like our $50 patrons, of which we've got a couple. Big shout out to Swampy McGee, Peter Larson, Angelo Corsi, Baby Jeebus, and Mario Hernandez. Thanks all.
Check out our Bonfire store for all of our awesome t-shirt and sweatshirts.
If you want to pick up any of the cards that we talked about today, you can do so at our TCG Player affiliate link down below. Or you can use Moxfield.
True! Our Alter Sleeves affiliate link gets you 5% off your order there, so check that out.
We have a couple of playmats. If you want to check them out at our website, playtowinmtg.com.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
We'll see y'all next time.